on sports! All right, my dear friends. Man, it's been a weird February, hasn't it, Fletch?
It's finally cold. Here
Oh,
here in the man cave, I'm layered. I'm
well,
very
you need to
layered.
be. You need to be. I'm going to blow in the hands. You know,
Well, that could be a balk.
it could be. Could be. I'm putting substance in. I think Gary's having a little difficulty tonight in the bowels of New Jersey, but hopefully he'll join us in a little bit. Um, I don't know if you've had the chance to watch it yet, but this curb season has been a pure pleasure.
Unbelievable.
The
They're
key,
back.
oh, they're back. The key is Vince Vaughn as Marty Funkhauser's. I believe it's his brother.
I think so. Yes, and rest in peace, Marty Funkhauser.
Well, exactly, and I love that they haven't killed him.
No, the Funk Man is away somewhere.
He's in China. I'll bet you he's going to get the coronavirus by the end of the year.
Oh,
Wouldn't that be ironic?
oh my goodness.
Oh, it's going to kill her. But it was an interesting bout last week. Boy, I'll tell you what, I came across thinking after I watched it that Wilder, well, it certainly looked like a cheap shot in the back of the head. I don't think it was an intentional cheap shot. I think it was, his head was ducked down. But boy, when the ear starts bleeding like that, I'm thinking you end the fight early on. I was a little disappointed that they had let that go on so long.
Yeah, I mean his equilibrium was obviously off.
Yeah,
and of course he'll also tell you that his strength was sapped from wearing that heavy costume into the ring.
I'm laughing my ass off thinking I didn't see that part of it. Of course, we saw the YouTube version that just started with the fight, so I didn't see that coming in. But first, let me say, what an ass munch move to wear such a heavy thing into the ring. What I don't understand the purpose of it.
No. I could use it tonight here in the man cave, though. It's a little cold.
I'm thinking you'd still have something left in your leg. But
it's also the fact that he had a 270-pound guy leaning on him for
he did
all that time too.
He did, absolutely, and I don't think the big costume sucked blood out of his ear. I'm just amazed at the lack of people making the excuse that, hey, there's blood coming out of my ear. Maybe there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's not a normal function. I mean, it's flowing out of there.
Yeah, and apparently it was tasty, too.
Oh, that was one of the most bizarre things I'm watching. What the hell is he doing? And I bring up this article on that he, of course, is tasting his blood. Which I don't know if that's a little sick or that's just a manly thing to do in a boxing match.
I'd never seen that before. I hope to God to never see it again. But I watched the fight twice. The first time on a YouTube feed that was not as high def as I would want it to be, so I didn't pick up how much blood was on him until I saw it the second time.
Yeah,
and how much blood was coming out of his ear. It was, my prediction was that the longer that fight went on, the better it was going to be for Tyson Fury. But that fight was never even competitive.
No, I didn't think it was a mismatch. I thought it was even after the first two rounds, but it was not a fight of any special meaning. But man, I can't help but think it would have been a more competitive fight, certainly, if he doesn't get hit in the back of the head.
Yeah.
I mean, the blood flows at that point, and he has no leg. And I read an article where he makes the claim he's mad at his corner because he said, if I'm willing to kill somebody in the ring, I should be willing to die in the ring, which, makes you think the kid's taking a little too many shots to the head to begin with.
Well, I think his corner should have been fired just for having no answers for him that entire fight. I mean, you and I talked during the week. At least they didn't pull out the condom that Tyson's corner used against Buster Douglas, but
Oh.
they gave him nothing between rounds to help him at all.
No. I don't know that there was anything to help him at that point, because my contention is he's bleeding from his ear. So
yeah, tough to fight.
There's no, looking at his legs, there's no way he could have been competitive in that fight. He was gutsy. I mean, he had.
Oh yeah.
He certainly had some guts, but I mean, he could hardly walk.
Apparently willing to die. You got to give him points for that.
He was willing to die, and he was bitter that they didn't understand that.
I think that also the boxing didn't want to have another. What's the word I'm searching for? Another problem with the fight between those two that was controversial.
Well,
after the first bout.
Yeah, no, I think that was. I had Tyson winning by a small margin in that first fight. I thought it was controversial. I mean, I thought Tyson had a ballsy. I thought he was out when he came up. How he got to his feet and then began to be competitive in that was just unbelievable.
I didn't expect him to be the aggressor from the very beginning like he was, though.
No.
I mean, he followed him all over the ring. That was I didn't see that happening.
No, and he was definitely the better fighter on the evening.
Yeah.
And he surprised me with his speed, and he used the weight to his advantage. I mean, he leaned on him. He tired him out even more with his tactics.
Then he got a little boost from drinking some blood and was back into it.
He got the blood, but then as you want to think this guy is whacked out, I can't stand him. Turns around and donates his whole purse to the homeless.
And he also says to Wilder, he says, it was a bad night for you. You're going to be a champion eventually.
Yeah. So classy and screwed up at the same time. It's a combination that's rare.
Well, it makes for a good heavyweight.
It does.
That's what you want. You want a little bit of color. You want some power.
Yeah.
Get both of that.
Oh, you got it.
That is a big man, and he moved pretty well that fight too.
Well, I was listening to who the hell was talking about it? Maybe it was the morning show. One of the shows on the Fan, which again, the fact that it's a head story on local talk shows is a good thing for boxing, is a good thing for the heavyweight division. It was getting some weird responses. Two people on the show I was listening to, I think it was a morning show, both claimed that Tyson was one of the top 5 heavyweights in history, which made me laugh my ass off. He's not even close. You can't claim any of these guys in the modern game to be in the top 5 in the history of boxing because the competition isn't there. They could be. Tyson Fury is not close to being.
No.
But, even if these guys are in the top 5, you don't know because the competition just isn't there.
I mean, you think about the when we were growing up in the 70s and what the competition was in the heavyweight realm. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, maybe Tyson Fury is more of a Mike Weaver or a John Tate.
Yeah.
I don't see I see him as being just ripped apart by any of the great heavyweights of the 60s and 70s. He doesn't survive a Joe Frazier. He doesn't survive a Muhammad Ali. I'm not even sure he survives a Ken Norton.
Well, it's sort of like the same thing that, you think about Larry Holmes.
Yeah.
There was a guy who was really denied greatness because it was watered down by the time he was in his prime.
Absolutely.
And, if you look at him, He's a top 10 fighter, I would think.
I put him in. I definitely put him in the top 10. He borders on the 7 or 8 in my.
Yeah, I mean, but because he had no great competition, he doesn't get that. I mean, at the end of his career, he fought Michael Spinks, who's not a great boxer by any shade of imagination at all. And then he's over the hill and he fights Tyson.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. But he also suffered from. Okay, let me explain this to Gary. He's trying to get on here. But he suffered from not being the fastest heavyweight in the world. He suffered from not being the heaviest puncher. He suffered from not being the most defensive fighter. But he was good at all of them. He was a well-rounded fighter, and I think that kind of hurt him a little bit too. He didn't have anything. This was his specialty, so to speak.
Well, and he was also tagged as Ali's sparring partner. That doesn't help you any.
Yeah, no, and certainly, boy, that was probably the saddest fight I ever watched.
It was, and think about for Larry Holmes too. I mean, you think he wanted to be in there with that?
No, I remember Larry Holmes being very upset with that. And I remember that being the worst moment of his boxing career, not unlike Rocky Marciano with his hero Joe Louis.
Right.
At a similar time of his career.
But yeah, it was an entertaining. I just didn't see it happening that way. And you're right, Dave. That fight should have been stopped.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure it was a borderline cheap shot.
Yeah, and I say that, but I don't think it was something he was looking to do. I think just with the head movement as it was, he hit him there. He hit him there good. I mean, it was a solid hit in the back of the head. And he was never right after that.
No. No, it just goes to show you that balance is key in this whole thing. You get that knocked off like that. I don't know how you come back from it.
Absolutely. No, I absolutely agree with you. I think there's going to, I know there's going to be a third match. Wilder pulled the option on that in this contract, but he hasn't looked good against Fury in 2 fights. I'm not sure at this point.
What's the gain?
What's the gain? I thought for sure with him being at 270 some odd pounds and him looking out of shape or thinking he was out of shape. I thought Wilder, who was certainly at his peak, certainly not one of the top hitters in boxing history, which again is laughable when people claim him to be that. But I thought for sure he was going to win this in 7 rounds. And the first thing I saw coming across was TKO round 7, and I thought, oh my God, I should have gone to bet the round of this fight, because I thought for sure that Wilder had won the fight, because I was at work kind of following. And then boom, it turns out to be that. Dumbfounded. And then when you read about it, it wasn't until you watch it that you kind of had an idea why it happened the way it did. But my first thought is, how the hell could this have happened in the 7th round? Well, you kind of saw. But again, I mean, the one thing that I always remember about the condom incident at Tyson was I kept screaming at Lampley, "Tell me if it's rigged. Tell me if it's rigged." But you never knew the type of condom that Mike Tyson was using in that fight.
Oh, it's funny that
he's here. Oh, wait a minute, who's here?
I have no idea why. I don't know. Did you guys figure out why you couldn't get in earlier?
Well, she said no.
Okay. Well, beyond that, I'm used to that. But I mean, this is a totally different process than Dave. I've always just clicked on your.
Well, you're joining us in progress, Gary. Give us your take on the fight.
We just started talking about the fight.
Okay, well, I mean, you guys can finish what your thoughts were. I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't realize you.
Go.
No, let's hear what's in here. We were talking about whether Tyson was using ribbed or latex condom in his fight versus Douglas. Did you have any insight to that?
No, I do not.
Okay.
It looked like latex though, with as much moisture as they had in that, as much as they had in
It did beat off, didn't it?
that balloon at the. I guess, yeah. So sorry to join late here.
We were talking basically about, the possibility of him with the hit in the back of the head being the causing of what inevitably happened. What was your thought on it?
I mean, I think a couple thoughts on it. I mean, I do think it was borderline. I think it was in the back of Wilder's ear, towards the back of his head. But, I mean, this is the problem with Wilder all along. He's technically flawed. He's relied on the fact he's a very good athlete. He's got big punching power. And, unlike a lot of other heavyweights, when he was on the ropes, he was getting pushed to the ropes by a heavier Fury. He didn't stand up and punch back. He basically kind of pushed off and then he fell forward. So he gave Fury every chance to crack him like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenny Bayless is a good referee, but this is not the first time that in like a real tension-packed environment, he missed stuff like that. And I think he missed it too.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm not really sure. I mean, I think it certainly changed Wilder's legs and it changed his ability to continue in the fight. But, Fury was doing a lot of bullying him before that. I mean, Fury was controlling the pace. He was pushing him backwards and that kind of stuff. And honestly, I doubted Fury big time with talking about coming in there at 270. But it looked like he had a huge weight differential when he was hitting Wilder.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Fury might have won anyway, but it certainly changed the course of the fight. I mean, I think I got a bigger issue more with. I mean, that happens sometimes. It's a fight. It's not a church social.
Well, and I don't think either of us thought it was it was a foul. I thought, but I don't think it was an intentional one. I thought Wilder's head came in and it just happened.
That's the way I feel. I mean, and it's going to happen. With guys 6'9" and 6'7", some odd stuff could happen like that. I mean, I think, Lennox Lewis used to say, if you eat too much cake during training, it's going to show in the fight. And he's right about that. And Wilder has not improved. I'm sorry. I mean, he's a big puncher. I think he's a lot better than some people have given him credit for. I'm not quite sure he'd match up with some of the top 10 heavyweights of all time, but he continues to stand. His feet are too far apart. He doesn't throw any jabs. Never throws any body punches, and he looks for that one big shot. Well, against a bigger man who can probably box better than him, it caught up with him. And, I think the bigger issues I have with it is not necessarily that got clocked in the back of the head. I mean, clearly something was wrong with him after that, and it changed the course of the fight. But, I mean, he certainly set the conditions for it by not improving his skills and honestly letting Fury push him to the ropes and in the corner all the time in the first 3 rounds. He didn't move at all.
Gary, I said to Dave, I was surprised at how much Fury was the aggressor in that fight. I wasn't expecting him to be quite that aggressive and chasing him across the ring like that.
I mean, Fury's shown that he can beat you a lot of different ways. And I think it's interesting. He said, leading up to the fight, he said, Wilder's he's not gonna finish the fight on his feet this time. Everybody thought it was just talk and hype. And, Fury's kind of a circus character, so you never really know how serious he is. But, maybe he saw something in the first fight. I mean, maybe he got hit by Wilder. He really went down hard in the 12th round. He got up right away. Maybe he felt, I took this guy's best shot. It's not that much. So I can push him around, and I can walk him down. And that's exactly what he did. And, Fury said he would do that, and he did it. So he's now won fights by outboxing 2 big punchers. I thought he won the first fight in points. You could make the argument that he did. He outboxed Klitschko, who was probably shot and maybe at the end of his career, but still a big puncher nonetheless. He did it to Wilder, for a lot of the rounds in the first fight. And then this time he said, okay, I'll show you I can win another way. And honestly, I think he was on the way to doing it, even if he hits him with a clean shot. So, I think the bigger issues I have are after the fight. I think, Dave, I think you and I communicated a little bit about this, I think, right after. Mark Breland, for being an Olympian as a welterweight on the team with Holyfield and Pernell Whitaker and all those guys, that was some of the worst non-advice I've ever seen in my entire life. They basically told Wilder nothing during those 6 rounds. And the other guy who's around him has been around Wilder a lot of years. I mean, basically the same thing. I mean, he was not prepared for the adversity he faced. Now, you don't necessarily get prepared for if he does have a cracked eardrum or something, which they'll probably never release. You can't prepare for that, but you got to prepare for being seriously damaged and getting through it. He had no idea, similar to Joshua against Ruiz back in June. Maybe it's the sport of boxing now. He had no idea on how to survive and get himself back into the fight until his head cleared or his ear cleared or whatever the problems were.
I'm not sure that would have happened, Gare. I mean, you're bleeding from the ear profusely. That's not normal. I don't think, and I agree with you. I don't think they gave him any pertinent information. But on the other end,
I don't know that it matters.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think he comes back from this.
I guess I'm bothered by the fact that when you're hurt that badly, to just keep walking around in circles while you're stumbling around without trying to grab or hold. I mean, he's a big man too. He's 6'7", 235 pounds.
Yeah.
He didn't do any of that. So that tells me again that these training camps and all this stuff just haven't been that high quality. I'm sorry, and I think Breland throwing the towel in probably was the conclusion that they had came to, like you guys are saying. But he also had 9 other minutes where basically he had no idea how to keep this guy off of him, tie him up, get through it, and he didn't do anything in that regard. And
I think it was as confusing as Fury's side saying, in the next round, lick the blood off his neck, please.
Well, I mean, this character is a very loose cannon. I mean, he's a lot better than I think most people in boxing thought he was at this point. But, I mean, look at this guy's history now in the last 5 years. I mean, he boxes Klitschko really well, and although Klitschko may have been finished, he has a chance to really capitalize on it. What's he do? He blows up to 380 pounds. He starts popping pills and cocaine and drinking and says he's going to shoot himself and all this other kind of stuff. Then he comes back, and he does very well against Wilder. What did he do with that? For a year, he basically fought nobodies, and he was in serious trouble against Otto Wallin. So he's a loose cannon. I'm not sure he's mentally all there, honestly.
But he did give up his habit of 20 to 30 Diet Cokes per day. So,
I mean, who fights as a heavyweight in any professional sport? Who drinks 20 to 30 Diet Cokes?
Let me just say this: if you want the flavor, why not cut to 10 to 15 Cokes instead of doing the diet?
I don't know. I mean, one thing I'll say is I thought the fight was pretty disappointing. I mean, I think compared to what I think about in the 70s, and what I think about even in the 90s, I mean, the skills just aren't that good anymore. I mean, as good as Wilder is, and I think he's better than he showed that night, even if he was seriously damaged. It just don't have the sport just does not have people, even people that have highly regard. Now maybe Breland does try to talk to him, and he doesn't listen. I mean, that is possible. We'll never really know that. They can put all these cameras and these pre-shows and all that kind of stuff. That stuff, a lot of that is staged. Who really knows what it's like? But I mean, neither guy. I mean, even Fury. I mean, with a guy that badly damaged, it took him that long to finish it. Like, I mean, would this be Joe Frazier or George Foreman or even Larry? I mean, seriously. I mean, I think unfortunately, they make a lot more money and the talent level. And I'm not disparaging the sport. It's still a great sport. The heavyweights draw attention, but when I thought about it after the fact and watched it again, I thought, this wouldn't even be a top 5 heavyweight fight in 1 year in the 70s.
No.
So, I mean, I think it's a sad state of affairs, but I mean, it's a fact. I mean, here we got a guy who, ESPN ballyhooing so much in terms of Wilder. And quite frankly, I mean, in a way, he's pulled out a lot of these victories just by having a big right hand. It's pretty obvious because he didn't know how to adjust. He didn't do anything different, damaged or not. And honestly, I thought it took Fury an awful long time. Might have been carrying him a little bit. Who knows? But it took him an awful long time to get a guy out there that couldn't even stand on 2 legs.
Well, so, on one end, I certainly agree with you, and I'm sure Fletch does about the fight. But on the other end, with all the quirky stuff in it, I actually think that's playing well among the boxing public, so to speak. So,
yeah, I think so too. I mean, the other thing too is just it adds something for a rematch. It adds something for we talked before about maybe that big fight at Wembley. Whatever it is, there's interest now because of that. So we'll see what happens.
Vulnerability sells tickets, and honestly, every single one of them have a vulnerability of the four in the past year of a different color. I mean, Joshua's got a body beautiful, but his chin's glass.
Yeah.
He certainly doesn't know how to deal with any kind of adversity. It showed all over his face in June. Wilder now, clearly, I mean, his aura is probably gone. I mean, Fury's a big man, but he's not considered a big banger, and he roughed him up like he was a rag doll, and he beat the hell out of him. And I think Fury, I think a lot of people, I'm not sure you're going to get Fury off his game mentally because I think he's such a loose cannon anyway. But on the other hand, he's still very beatable. Somebody who could box and move their head and some of that stuff. I'm not sure there's a lot of that out there right now, unfortunately, but he's beatable as well. And, you know, Ruiz, I mean, at least in Fury's case, he was right. I'll admit that I was wrong. I don't think in heavyweights you necessarily have to be like the smaller guys with all the, you know, the speed and the conditioning. But on the other hand, carrying him out 20 more pounds, I was really skeptical of. We didn't talk about that on our shows, but I talked about that with, I think, some people before the fight. Unlike Ruiz, who clearly just didn't take it seriously at all and just collected the money and bought a car and all kinds of other stuff, Fury had a plan here and he executed it. But
He did.
I'm sorry, you know, I don't agree with some of these people on ESPN or some of these other people. He's not Muhammad Ali, not even close in talent, not close in personality either. And secondly, he's very vulnerable. I mean, this is a guy that's been on the floor 4 or 5 times. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I think we got to keep it in perspective. Yeah, for this era, I think the vulnerability of them all will sell some tickets.
They're not close to those guys. They're if you want to put them close to anything, as I said to Fletch, they may be on a level with John Tate and Mike Weaver, but they're not on a level with some of the greats of.
No. I mean, I guess what I'm going to be looking for, and I don't think Fury doesn't have this issue. I mean, what I'd be looking for down the road is, let's see. I mean, Joshua kept carping about how, you know, I showed I was prepared for the rematch and I boxed and I didn't take any risks and stuff like that. Yeah, well, the trouble is, pal, we don't also want to see you beat Pernell Whitaker. And quite frankly, Ruiz was out of gas in 9 minutes. So I'm not really giving that high marks either. I mean, I think, you know, but all Wilder's carping, honestly, about Joshua's vulnerabilities and how he's got a glass chin. I mean, honestly, Wilder got his brains beaten. He was bleeding bad out of the mouth. He got hammered, just even with an illegal shot. So, I mean, you know, the vulnerability may end up selling some tickets. But, I mean, honestly, I did come away a little bit disappointed again, thinking just about the state of affairs.
Well,
Let me just say this. He's a man. He's got his pride. He don't need no woman to hurt him inside.
Amen.
Well,
We've been hearkening back to the 70s and 80s and even the 60s, but, you know, this past week was the 40th anniversary of maybe the greatest sporting event in our lives.
What did you say there? Did you say maybe?
Well, okay, it was.
Yep.
And just thinking about it and how something like that could never happen again. And I'm gonna talk out of both sides of my mouth today, so be prepared for this.
All right.
I really miss the amateurs being in the Olympics. You'll never get a moment like we had with those college students beating that powerhouse Russian team. We'll never have that again. That being said, I still loved watching that first dream team playing basketball. So, you know, I'm trying to have it both ways, guys. So tell me how I'm wrong on both of them.
Well, I actually got very bored of the dream team early on. I thought, you know, it's wonderful. We have the greatest basketball in the world, and we showed them the one time. But
that's all we had to do is one time, and that would have been good.
all we had to do.
yeah.
But there's something, and if you weren't of an age where you could appreciate what was going on in 1979 or 1980, you're just never going to grasp how special that moment was. And it's
Right.
the only thing. I mean, we all watch sports. We watch the Pirates in hopes that the Pirates can win another World Series, that we can capture that joy we felt in '79 when we were freshmen at Duquesne. You know, you watch the Steelers in hopes they can win another Super Bowl. The Penguins, that they can, you know, you all have that thought in your head, if Pitt did this and this, they could win a national championship again. Compete. some of them may be far off, but the possibility's there. There
Yep.
is no possibility
Right.
we'll ever see anything like this again. And
No.
as Kurt Russell said in the movie, I don't know if Herb ever said this, but the problem with dream teams is there's no dream. I mean, it takes the dream away, having professionals in the Olympics. It's fun. It's exciting to watch the best play the best. Don't get me wrong. I agree with what you're saying, Fletch. And it was kind of wild to see the U.S. just rip the ass off every team in the world in that thing. But
and they were happy to be beaten by them too. They were excited by it. They were like, "Thank you so much for playing us. Thank you for beating our brains out. I appreciate it." But here's the thing that did though. It really made basketball the global game that it is. I mean, there is that aspect of it as well. But I miss having the amateurs in the Olympics. I do. I mean, that hockey team, first of all, like you said, Dave, putting it in context of what was going on in the world at that time, that was special. Yeah. But the fact that, and the media world was different then too, the fact that we were watching this on a tape delay, that even though the word was out who won that game, trying to maintain that radio silence before the game started, that was a whole different time.
Oh God, I couldn't do it. When I got home, I came home for the weekend from Duquesne, and I couldn't do it. I was on KDK left and right getting the updates, so I knew who won. I called our great friend Boo Boo at Duquesne to tell him because he wanted to know, and we're screaming. Then I'm screaming as I'm hearing it. My dad comes down and asks me what the hell is going on, and I tell him. I didn't know if he wanted to know, but I told him. And just the look on his face was, this amazing smile. I'll never forget that. And we watched the game, and even though you knew who won, we had the goosebumps.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed to admit there were tears in my eyes at the end.
Absolutely.
Even knowing who won.
And guys, the Disney adaptation of that to the movie Miracle still gets me every time.
It was good.
Every time.
I agree.
Every time, especially when he goes in the back, knowing what the old man said to him after he got cut from the '60 Olympics, knowing the obsession he had for 20 years, and it all works out, and just that emotion that must have just come out of him at that point.
Well, the conditions are different, unfortunately, too. I mean, not just in the U.S., but even those other countries. I mean, right. Those countries aren't coming with the player. Those players that are good, they're already in the NHL now here at 18 and 19 from those Eastern Bloc countries and stuff. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess my view is, and Dave, no disrespect to the sport, but if you could sell women's soccer and their amateurism or whatever, it's funny. The last Olympic hockey tournament was an excellent one. It's just the U.S. had a bunch of college players and guys that weren't even high-level junior on the team, and they didn't do real well. So, of course, it didn't get the TV coverage here. But the last Olympic hockey tournament that was done a couple of years ago was a fantastic tournament. It was tremendous hockey. It's just the U.S. is not as good as some of those countries like Germany now and Russia and some of those places in the game. And I think the basketball, I think initially it was good, but I don't know. I just don't know how saleable it is. I mean, to beat on people every 4 years by 30, 40 points, I don't think I just don't think it's that saleable. I think it would be better if they went back to a pure amateur situation in all these countries, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think the NHL is going to be doing it anytime soon for a lot of reasons. And I think even the World Cup's at risk because, the Players Association is not really signing up for this stuff. And, Bettman's not pushing as much as he once did either, which tells me that they weren't quite the success that everybody thought they were. I mean, for every goal like Crosby scored in 2010 to win it for Canada, some of these other Olympic hockey tournaments of the pros in it weren't that great. So, I mean, and some of those guys really weren't even that into it. So, I mean, I think you should go back to the old way, but I don't see that happening either.
Well, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So.
But that's what we now
that's
know.
What made it appealing. That's right. That's right.
We know what we saw, and to me, it makes it that much more special. I mean, you don't celebrate the gold medal of 1960.
No.
The event wasn't to the level, anywhere near the level of what the 80 win was, because the Russians were really just starting out. The U.S. was still competitive.
Yep.
Canadians didn't play the game at the Olympic level at that point.
Yep. Yep.
So it was. I mean, we don't celebrate that this is the 60th anniversary of that. I mean, we celebrate. And again, if the U.S. had done that in 1992 or 1996, it would have been neat. But everything that was coming at the time,
yeah,
I mean, it made it. You had to have the Afghanistan thing. You had to have the threat of the U.S. pulling out of the Soviet games and the threat of the Soviets pulling out. You had to have that hatred. You had to have the Iran situation that was going on, the gas shortage. I mean, these were all things that were as much a piece of this as the U.S. winning that game.
Totally. But I think if you understood hockey, the Stashneys were here, and there was guys like Hedberg and guys like that came over from other countries, went to the WHA. But the majority of players in the Eastern Bloc countries were not yet out of those countries and not coming anywhere near the NHL.
No.
So it made the conditions a lot different from a fan standpoint and intensity standpoint beyond all the stuff you described, Dave. Today, those guys are over here already. They're not even playing in those programs or those countries' programs anymore. And I think that's a major difference in it as well.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, particularly on the hockey side. And on the basketball side, I think it's kind of the same. I mean, look at all these guys coming from Eastern Bloc countries and other countries, Greece and stuff like that. They're not, the Olympics aren't a big deal to them anymore. I mean, they're coming to the NBA if they're good enough. They're coming early.
And actually, that's one thing that has. I mean, Fletch, you hit on it earlier. It made it a more global game. Playing the team, so to speak, made the rest of the world better.
Yep.
And let us say that the Dream Team. I'll take it one step further. The Dream Team made Gonzaga better because the rest of the world got better. Gonzaga was becoming power because they were the best in Europe.
Yep.
That's a really good point.
It's true. It's true.
In fact, Duquesne's women's team, not that it had anything to do with the Dream Team, that's how Dan Bird has enjoyed so much success at Duquesne.
Right.
Is because he recruits well in Europe.
Yep.
I mean, the basketball certainly changed the basketball world that way, but and the hockey world fell apart. You know, the wall fell apart politically, so the hockey world it disintegrated these international tournaments and their significance.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately. So they put the pros in it because nobody was paying any attention to it. I mean, even in the early part of, you know, the 20th century, nobody was watching the Olympics at all. So they put the pros in it, and the pros could get some other incentive money and some stuff like that and endorsement money. But once the political environment changed, the conditions for what happened in 80 and even 60 just fell apart. So.
And you know, I mean, you mentioned women's soccer. Women's soccer even gets paid a nice amount of money.
Yeah.
Compared to what?
All I meant is there's a lot of good college players that, well, I mean, unfortunately, I can't even say that anymore. Most of the good college players now, they're already getting drafted or they're already under contract at pro hockey. So I don't know if that would qualify them to play in the Olympics anyway. And I think, you know, when Tavares got hurt in that one tournament, I think it was in 2010, I noticed a lot of organizations said, I don't want my prospects going to that. I don't want them doing it. It's just not, it's a tournament. It's an international tournament. Yeah. But my money's made in the NHL. So, and I think that some of the better, you know, kids in college now, they weren't on the United States Olympic team. United States Olympic team in the last tournament was some college players, but not the top tier. Some guys that were in between, you know, veterans like Brian Giunta, who were in between an NHL contract and whether they were going to play again. And the U.S. was horrible. I mean, they were beaten by just about everybody. So, you know, if you don't have that kind of attention, you have that kind of, it's certainly not USA boxing and some of the other Olympic programs that are in trouble, but it's not in a good spot right now. And it's not going to get better. So, you know.
Well, I mean, let us say it, you know, as a Pittsburgh fan and American, okay, you're not going to have a better stretch than between October of 1979 and the end of February of 1980.
No.
That was the greatest 5 months of sports in my life.
Correct. I would agree with that. For pretty much one of the top in any city for any short period of time, really.
I mean, you know, we came together. We came together as as Al Michael said, it was easy to be a homer in that game because we were all rooting for the same team.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was, could it be the last time we were unified? Maybe. And it was a hockey team, a bunch of kids who didn't know they could be so special. Well, I feel I'm Lee Schreiber right now.
Yep. It was, I mean, it's still hard to believe it happened. A number of those Russians on that 25-man Russian roster, probably, I read somewhere one time that about 17 of them would probably have been in the NHL if the political environment was different. So,
yeah.
Together a bunch of college kids. Those days didn't have the long wind in front of the tournament either. They probably got together in the summer, which makes it even more remarkable.
Maybe they were against the wind.
I mean, Tretiak himself would have been an NHL probably Hall of Famer if he had played in the NHL. He changed the game. So, that's still the thing about that game that I still can't believe is how
he gets pulled. Yeah.
Got yanked. I mean, that was clear panic by the Russian coaching staff.
Well, what was the funniest part was they didn't pull Michigan at the end of the game.
Right.
Yep.
I always loved the Kurt Russell line. He doesn't know what to do, and he didn't.
I think that's correct. I think all the rumors about I've seen this in boxing too. Klitschko's notwithstanding, but a lot of these we'll see about Lomachenko because he's never been tested. There's talk
What do you think they do against Drago?
He must break.
Drago's in the gym. Jim Trunzo a call out. He's got Drago and he's got them all in his game. He's got Drago. He's got Stallone or Rocky. He's got them all in there. So you have to play them out, Dave, and tell us.
You think Drago has a statue on the top of the steps going into the Moscow Art Museum?
Probably. But
does he throw his motorcycle helmet at it in a moment of self-doubt? That's the other part.
These are the things we need to know. Before we go, we're going to go around the horn. Predict the NHL or the XFL winner. Start, Gary.
I have no idea. I mean, I'm
say a city. Say a city, Gary.
Washington.
D.C. They don't call themselves Washington, Gary.
Los Angeles.
They're Destroyers.
Okay, there you go. Destroyers.
Fletch.
I'm going to say McMahon is the winner. He brought this in back.
That's right. He is the winner.
I'm going to agree. I have actually enjoyed it. I like some of the new rules. I've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, it's entertaining. It is somewhat entertaining. I agree.
Well, the one thing we've been spared with this, though, is we haven't had to see Landry Jones play for the Steelers.
Yeah, he's where is he? Tampa? Where is he? No, I can't remember what team he's on. Yeah,
he's somewhere praying AB gets signed by the XFL.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they do try to do some big splash thing like that. Not necessarily him, but somebody. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm hoping.
It's different. I'm not sure. I mean, playing in smaller stadiums is kind of cool, I'll bet. That's probably kind of a cool thing live, I would think.
Yeah, and the play hasn't been bad. I haven't minded it. I can't say I've sat there and watched more than 2 or 3 games, but
yeah,
I haven't minded it.
Yeah, I've not watched the play.
You haven't watched the play yet?
I have not.
I'll be curious if you do. Watch the kickoff and stuff. The kickoff rules, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL tries some of that stuff, like in exhibition games or stuff. Because a couple of the kickoff stuff, I think, does make sense, Dave,
Well, I take that back. I did see in passing something in the background, but, the fact that they mic up the coordinators who are talking, they're doing the play calls, which you have no idea what it means.
It's like Star Trek, yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
It means nothing.
Oh. I remember claiming when Jim Zorn called an X-15 to the right Omaha, I thought he should have taken that to the left when he called it. And I was proved right.
Well, okay? You certainly didn't matriculate it down the field.
I mean, ESPN, though, continues to make all of this completely amateurish. Having they love that woman. They put her on everything. I don't understand it, who's on those games. And the other dude chasing these guys down. Like, I know it's fun. But it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's amateurish. Why do they got to do that stuff?
But keep in mind, Gary, that, if it weren't for the XFL, we would not have that overhead camera in the NFL. that they brought that in.
Actually, that's the one thing that I hated from the beginning of the NHL or XFL because I felt like I needed Motrin.
Well, it's okay to use it occasionally, like one or
the whole game.
for the whole game. You're right. You're not really sure what to do.
You're seasick. Maybe it's not Motrin. I'm thinking. What's the motion sickness pill?
Dramamine.
Or Dramamine.
Is it Dramamine?
Yeah.
Scream up to Patty if
It
you
is.
get her away from her dartboard with Matt Murray.
Yeah.
Why, Gary, didn't she come out with a post about hating Tristan Jarry or telling us that Tristan Jarry sucked when he gave up 5 goals the game after?
It's not a biased. It's not. It's not an unbiased view, Dave. So
You know, she throws you under the bus on those posts, Gary.
He does.
I honestly, I don't really care. I know what I'm looking at. I mean, honestly, they both have been bumpy a little bit here these last couple of weeks, to tell you the truth. So, I mean, in all seriousness, my concern is Jarry's never played this much, even in the AHL. He's had injuries, so we'll see. And, I'm sorry, I do like Murray, but I am getting fed up with the fact that this guy cannot find the puck on the ice. I'm sorry. You got to fix it. He's not.
Do you think you need the Fox glowing puck? Was it Fox that came up with
It was.
puck?
I mean, is it just me, though? I mean, are you guys getting frustrated with some of this? How can this guy never find the puck in a scramble? I mean, I'm sorry. What is wrong with this guy?
If you look at what they've done to tinker with him, they've changed his stance.
I thought he was on a good roll there for a while, and he
was on a good roll.
He still is.
I think he was. I think he had 1 or 2 bad games.
I'm not saying. Look, I think
I put Jarry in. As your starter at this point, but I don't think Murray's played poorly.
I didn't say that, but I think I'm frustrated by the fact more than the glove hand sometimes. How? Maybe you guys don't see it the same way. Think of how many goals over the past couple years, and I think about that series with Philadelphia a couple years ago. He just cannot find the rubber on the ice when there's traffic in front of him and it scrambles.
Well, the other part of it, though, Dave and Gary, is that they're not clearing people out in front of the net very well.
That's what I was going to say. I think Jarry and Murray have played poorly together, and I think that's a big part of it because they're getting back to the stupid things they were doing last year, which was giving the puck away, giving up odd man breaks, and not clearing out in front.
But I agree with that. But I also think there's plenty of goalies in the league that if their teams aren't doing that, they can still find it. Like when that puck's around the crease, like when there's a power play and there's traffic in front. Look, I still like Murray. I think I like his mentality better than Jarry from what I've seen even live, as the pressure starts in the playoffs. But he does. I don't know how you guys can dispute my point that this guy has a lot of trouble finding a puck on the water. I'm sorry, he does.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
And I don't know.
On the water though, does the puck not sink to the bottom?
But why can't they fix it? Like, I mean, the goaltending coach at some point, if I'm Sullivan, I got to be saying, what's going on with this?
A thing like that is you either have a feel or you don't. I mean, that's the thing. There's some things the goalie coach is just not going to be able to fix.
And maybe that's the case. And if that's the case, that worries me because they're going to go up against a bunch of teams that got big forwards, Washington, Tampa, Boston. They're going to crowd him because if I'm seeing it, they're seeing it.
Well, the other thing is they're on this road trip now. They've got to win the next 2 games. You've got 2 very, very winnable games, and then you come back and you're facing the Metro Division.
Yep.
So this is a key stretch for this team.
Yep.
I agree.
I like the moves. We talked about a little bit, Chris. I like the moves.
I love all of them.
Yeah, Rutherford again, full credit. And I still think the goaltending, if those guys – I don't think they're playing badly either. I'm not saying that. But, I mean, some of the same things in Murray's case keep recurring, and that frustrates me. But yeah, I think the goaltending situation still can compete with just about anybody as we go down the stretch here. I really do. We got 2 guys that the team is comfortable in front of. Not all teams can – Tampa can't say that. I don't think the Caps can say that.
No.
Islanders can't say it anymore either with the way those 2 guys have played recently. So – I mean, Philadelphia, same thing. I mean, Elliott's good. He's a good veteran, but he's hurt all the time. He hurts himself getting up and go to the bathroom. So, I mean, I think Pittsburgh being that deep is a big thing. But the Murray thing is starting to get a little alarming to me. I mean, I understand the confidence thing, and he's still a young man. People forget that. But the part about, like, on that Sunday game last week against the Caps, that just was inherently frustrating to me.
Yeah.
There were 2 goals he couldn't find the puck at all around the catch. And you're not going to win that way in a postseason.
But again, Gary, they got to clear the front of the net.
They don't really have a team that can do that easily, but I agree, Chris. I mean, you got to make, or don't let them get there. Don't let them.
That's the thing. You do have to let them clear, but when you're given the odd man breaks, that's what killed them last year.
Yeah.
I think Murray's been great in that kind of stuff. Like, he's been great in the bombs and all that kind of stuff. But what he hasn't been good in is the same thing that keeps recurring to me around that crease. But whatever, we can move on from it. I think Sullivan's going to go with him, actually, if they both are going in.
Let's do this as we end it. I'm going to give you 2 things without thinking. Name your favorite. You ready?
Go.
Jari Murray. Fletch.
Jari.
Gary.
You mean favorite as a fan or Murray?
Wicked. Maryanne and Ginger. Gary.
Which one's the brown hair?
That's Maryanne.
Maryanne, okay.
Fletch.
You don't even have to ask me that question. Who's the one who has the thing for redheads? Come on.
I'm the other way.
Okay. Ann Margaret, Joey Heatherton. Fletch.
Ann Margaret. Come on. It's the reddish hue. Come on.
I know.
This is why this show works. Joey Heatherton.
All right. Otis or Barney?
Oh. Otis.
Gare?
Yeah, probably Otis. Yeah.
All right. Bub or Uncle Charlie?
Oh, Uncle Charlie.
Who's Bub? I mean, I am so unrounded. It's ridiculous.
My 3 sons, the original.
Okay, Uncle Charlie. I'll take Uncle Charlie there.
You're going Uncle Charlie? Okay, I've always
been a curveball after him. How can you not go with Uncle Charlie?
I mean, I was thinking. Yeah, I was thinking. What's a
Bub guy? Who was the greatest William Frawley fan?
The greatest William Frawley.
I'm just saying, Jan or Cindy. Jan or Cindy.
Marcia, man. I had lunch with Marcia.
Did you?
I did. Living in LA, went to a restaurant. She was there. She was there by herself.
Were the Greg things true? Did you ask her about doing Greg?
No, I did not. I went over and I said, "Do you mind if I join you?" And I had lunch with her.
That would have ended the lunch. I'm glad you didn't, Chris. You got something good story to tell.
Or you could have said Bubba.
A very big rock on her finger, though.
Yeah. All right.
I'd probably go with Marcia too. Actually, I didn't watch that very much, but I'd go with Marcia too.
See, I go with Jan because I thought Jan was a people pleaser. Okay, first, and I thought about going with Cindy since there were the rumors that she was in a porn. But then, at that point, there's pressure. Okay, because if you're in a porn, you're with some of the best guys there are.
Yeah, you got to compete. That's right.
And you deal with the pressure.
It goes back to our earlier conversation. Amateurs are professionals,
Pretty much sums it up.
Okay, George or Kramer?
Oh, George. I am George.
You are George.
Not quite, but yeah, it's maybe some things. I'd go for Kramer myself.
All right. Are you ready for the greatest of the last ones?
Sure.
Gilligan or the Professor?
Okay, listen. You're on this goddamn island. You can make radios. You can do all this other stuff, but you can't get off the island. It has to be Gilligan because the Professor is fucking useless.
I'd probably go with Gilligan. I'd probably go with Gilligan too. At least he could probably row a boat to get us off. Wouldn't sit there.
All right. Well, it's been a good show, my friends.
Sorry I was late. Sorry I couldn't get in.
It's okay. Remember to curb your enthusiasm this weekend.
There you go. Got to play the music, Dave.
I wish I had it. We'll see you guys later.
Yeah, have a nice evening.